1991. That was the year I first arrived in Central Florida. And after a little bit of getting myself situated, eventually I got myself my own little studio apartment and a motor vehicle used and some secure employment as a security host, to use the euphemism they used at Walt Disney World, where I was actually working. Yes, there I was. Anyway, and when they hired you back then in that department, for the most part you were hired at what they euphemistically call a casual regular, which means you're a part-time employee. Now, I'm sure that a lot of contracts have come and gone over the years and things are completely different today. But in 1991, at that particular time, the security department had a different deal than most any other department on Disney property as far as the contract with the whatever union it was. And so their casual regulars could be worked more than a 40-hour week if they wished you to, or they could work you one or nothing, almost nothing at all, and you would find yourself hurting for hours. It depended on whether or not they needed you and how much the scheduler actually liked you. Very important to be on good relationship with your scheduler in those days. Otherwise, you wouldn't know what to do. And you never knew for sure when you would be working, or what day, from day to day, even not just week to week, but day to day. You better check your schedule every time you get off a shift to see for sure when you're coming back. That was the way it was at that time. Nor did you have any idea where you'd be working. Well, that's another story. I'm mainly telling you this to give you an idea of that I had no certain hours and no idea exactly when I would be going in and out of there, and that's important to the whole gist of this narrative. Well, of course I went to Disney, to the Magic Kingdom, to Epcot, and to MGM Studios, which is what it was back then, a lot on my days off. It was free, but I had not yet gone over to the theme parks I actually had to pay to get in on the competition, like SeaWorld or Universal Studios, but I was very curious about those. But again, I wasn't making a whole lot of money. I had to save what I made to some degree that I didn't spend on important things like rent and food and gasoline, because I was hoping to be able, when I had hours that were more predictable, to start graduate school so I could ultimately become the Dr. Jimmy I am today. So it wasn't something I did very often, to go and spend a lot of money on a theme park, because, gosh, to get in for a day in a theme park in those days, you probably had to spend more than $20. Yeah, the ticket prices were cheap by today's standards, but back then they were still pretty expensive, especially if you didn't make a lot of money. Oh, I think it was more like $60. Anyway, but I wanted to make a point in a silly way, which is what I do. Okay, so one night in October, yes, not May, October, I first heard some advertising for an upcoming thing that was going to happen at Universal Studios, because they didn't have way advanced teaser sites on the internet back then, because they didn't even have the internet back then. Or if they did, it wasn't what we have today. And so there I am driving in my security vehicle on the motor vehicle post, driving around Disney property at night, playing the radio like I'm not supposed to. One of those rock and roll album-oriented rock stations, listening to, probably in those days it would have been Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana, probably followed by November Rain by Guns N' Roses or something along that line. But listening to this music, and somewhere there comes along a commercial and asked me a question. Yes, coming out of the radio. they're asking me this important question. And it was a question that meant a lot to me. It was something like this. Dying for a good Halloween party? And oh my, was I. Oh, I liked parties. I liked Halloween. And the thought of a good Halloween party, because so many people in security, well, they just weren't no, at least the ones I hung out with, weren't as party as I would like to have been, and I couldn't, I would. Tell me about it, tell me. And they told me on the radio, they're going to have a terrific, awesome, spectacular Halloween party at Universal Studios for Universal Studios Fright Nights. Yes, for 3 whole nights. Yes, 3 nights. Not the last weekend of September, going all the way through the entire month of October to like the first weekend of November. Oh no, hell no. 3 nights. Yes. The weekend, which was like, I think, the 25th and 26th, or the 24th and 25th, I forget. But it was a weekend, Friday, Saturday, and then Halloween night itself, the 31st, which was probably like the following Tuesday or something. Anyway, there it was, a weekend and Halloween night. Those 3 nights were going to be Fright Nights. Oh, yeah, I wanted that. Yeah, let's do that. But how? How can I do that? Because I don't know if I have to work or not, and but I'm excited. And then I stop on the way home at like 7-Eleven to buy some soda pop, and oh, look at that. All the soda boxes for every Pepsi product. Yes, Pepsi. Not Coke. Pepsi. Because this was during those days when Pepsi was the soda pop corporate sponsor for Universal Studios. Not Coca-Cola. That came later. Coke was like this at Disney. In fact, they wouldn't let you serve anything that Coke made, anything that competed with anything Coke made at Disney. If they had their version of it, you had to have that Coke product at Disney. But right now, Universal in '91 was a Pepsi place. Now you got Coke everywhere. But it was Pepsi at Universal in that time. So it was every single Pepsi product, cans of little boxes of soda cans had Universal Studios monster pictures on Dracula, Frankenstein, the Bride, Wolfman. Oh man, that was so cool. I wanted to buy all of them. But, and if I had like a vision of the future to the year 2010, when fear itself is coming, I would have realized that I should have bought every one of those and carefully preserved them for posterity in a Horror Nights archive museum somewhere. But no, it never occurred to me, and so I think I bought the Diet Mountain Dew, and which had a creature from the Black Lagoon motif. I do remember that. And then after I finished the soda cans, the cardboard went in the garbage, and that was it. Oh well. But so there was the promotion, there was the publicity. I was ready to go. But how? Well, by some amazing quirk of fate, I found out that the Saturday, the 25th or whatever day it was, that Saturday, I was scheduled on a day shift. How weird. Because normally, on a day shift, that's the really, really old guy who's been working since, 1971 when the place opened, and was still working there, and he's 85 years old. He's the one who's going to get the day shifts because he has seniority. And but people like me have to work in the dead of night. But no. I actually had a day shift for once. I thought, this is exciting. So the following night after that, I had to work a night shift. Okay. So I went to work and did my job, came home and cleaned myself off and crawled into bed. And I couldn't get to sleep anyway. And I'm thinking, well, you know what? Why would I go to sleep now? Because I've been sleeping at daytime and getting up at night like I was one of the undead. And all this time, and I have to work tomorrow night anyway, so I need to sleep tomorrow during the day, so I might as well do something tonight. And then it occurred to me, wait a minute, I have to work Halloween night. I'm already scheduled for that. I saw that on the schedule. I had to work last night. Tonight is the only free night when they're doing that thing at Universal. Holy crap! And I leaped out of bed, threw myself in the shower, got on my clothes, ran downstairs, got in the car, and drove to Universal Studios, even though I'd never been to Universal Studios before and wasn't quite exactly sure where it was. But I figured, well, if I got on I-4 going east, I'm sure there's some kind of a sign telling me what exit to take. And eventually I found the place and parked in their parking lot. Yes, their parking lot. They didn't have this huge, enormous parking structure of doom back then. No, they had a parking where City Walk is now, and where you know, when you go into the gate and you have to go over this bridge, over this body of water that goes over to some nice resort on one side, and the other goes past that the Coliseum-looking Hard Rock thing, and you go over this huge bridge to get into. None of that existed. It was all one big flat pavement parking lot, like the ones they have for, say, MGM Studios or Epcot or whatever. It's a great big huge parking lot. And then you had right in front of the gates of Universal Studios. And so you parked your car, and a little tram would take you, just like at Disney. A little tram would take you through the parking lot to the front gate. And then you get out of there, and you get your ticket, and you go in. So that's what we did in those days. And it was amazing. Dungeon of Terror was the only house. And as I explained in the previous video, it was over where the Jaws ride would. And they put up this facade that looked like a castle. And first of all, you stood in line for about 2.5 to 3 hours. It was to go through a house. It would take you maybe less than 5 minutes, 10 minutes to walk through the house. But still, it was amazing. Now, my memory of all the haunted houses and all of the events for 19 years is fuzzy. And I have vague scenes of certain scenes from certain houses, and sometimes they overlap, but I'm not entirely sure if I'm remembering this one or that one. And there were 2 or 3 dungeons of terror. But I do remember it was a lot of it was set up like a dungeon with cells and victims in their cells, and it was very intense. It was new, okay? They had just started this. They didn't know what they couldn't do yet. So sometimes characters would get up in your face and even touch you when they weren't supposed to. And sometimes, you know, it would be very intense. And you would have, you know, goo on you after you were done. And in the next one, when I talk about 92, we'll talk about some blood, but that's another story. It was intense, and there was, you know, torture scenes and things that they hadn't. Of course, it was all new. That's another thing. This was the first one, so you had no preconceived notions from previous years, and so it was like, oh my God, they can't be doing this, but they are. And then there's a scene where the walls are closing in, and you're feeling like you're going to be crushed. Now, remember that thing? If you went to recently to Reflections of Fear, and they had that thing that hardly ever worked, but if you got in there on the right one, and it would be like going through this tight black, and it was like air. That's nothing. This was like, they were soft, but it still felt more solid, and you didn't feel like it was just inflatable something. It felt like there was something, you know, coming and crushing you around you. So there was a feeling of claustrophobia. It was profound. The rat lady got her debut in this house, and she had the rats on her, and she was in a glass coffin built into the floor, so you actually had to walk on her. They would never do that again, because it's, I mean, you know, today with the morbidly obese guest of today would crush her. It would go right through the ground. No, they couldn't, and kill those little baby rats. That would be terrible. I won't be able to finish this in 15 minutes, so I'll have to do another one, part 3. But let's continue as much as we can. Yes, it was just an amazing house. And part of it, of course, is that you've been in line for about nearly 3 hours, and when I got in line, it was hot, and it was daytime, and so I was sweaty and everything else, and going through there, I was like, came out of there, I was stunned. It was like, where am I? And it was, you know, it was just a profoundly wonderful, moving experience, and terrorizing. And you know, that's the best way to describe it. I'm sure they've done better haunted houses since then, but just the memory of it, as best as I can, it seems so much more, probably because it was the first. All right, this is to be continued.